I'm always amazed that StreamYard is just like boom live. Anyway, hello, my friends. How you doing? Thanks for joining me. I'm Nicholas W. Fuller, and this is Person Behind the Pages, the show where we get to know the creators that make the things we love. Tonight, I am joined by Gregory Michael. Hey, how you doing, Gregory?
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with Gregory, you should go check out the previous video that I linked in the description. Maybe not right now. Not right now. We're talking, but sometime where I got to read the first chapter of Gregory's debut novel, Chloe's Kingdom, which is pretty cool. Thank you for that opportunity, Gregory. Uh, but yeah, today I get to talk with the man himself, and we're going to talk about your debut novel, Chloe's Kingdom. We're going to talk about being parents and trying to find time to write, which never works. We're going to talk about being stung by over 100 bees, which is kind of crazy, and I hope that wasn't like all at once. We're going to talk about being a head writer of a comedy skit show, which is really awesome, and books in general and stuff. Whatever else comes up, it's going to be fun. You excited, Gregory?
I'm pumped. Yeah. And first, I actually want to say I know that you were super kind and generous enough to read my first chapter of my book and posted a video and all about it. So it's like, really, honestly, it's like you're saying I gave you the opportunity, but I think it's really you gave me the opportunity. So I just want to make that clear that it's you were the first person to kind of shine a spotlight on Chloe's Kingdom. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, happy to. Yeah, my pleasure. Um, it was a fun read. I enjoyed it. Thanks for I mean, it was a nice opportunity for me. So, speaking of, Chloe's Kingdom is your debut book. It's been out in the world for a little while now. How's it feel? Like, are you you know, feeling kind of really excited? Or are you kind of getting that post-launch? I mean, it's been a while, so maybe you're after kind of the post-launch blues. Have you been able to get back into writing? Or are you kind of still feeling in launch mode? What's the vibe?
Yeah, so the word that always comes to mind is it's absolutely surreal. Especially, I think the first wave is where it's your friends, your family, and stuff like that who buy your book, especially as an indie author. And so you get that exposure, and it's like, some of my friends, like, I know they'll totally give me crap if it's not good, or like kind of roast me and like, really give it to me. I'm from New York, and so like no one's really gonna hold back from there. And but yeah, I mean, it's been really fun, especially with people I work with, or even just when it kind of got onto the circuit of some of the bookstagrammers and people that I haven't met in person. I don't have a previous relationship with before Chloe's Kingdom released back in April. And yeah, it's just super exciting when people talk to me about it. And sometimes people message me about it and say like, oh, well, like, it's like one little game I like to play is like if people can guess the plot twist in Chloe's Kingdom, like the main betrayal, that's always kind of part of any major type heist novel. And there's actually been very few. And so I take a little bit of pride in that it wasn't ultra predictable. Sometimes you just don't know. And so, yeah, it's exciting. And it's been, it's been a roller coaster. You get like the first pop right when the book comes out, then you kind of get into a little lull, and then, you helped out with some stuff from like kind of a marketing perspective on Twitter and your video on YouTube. So that was like super cool. And then we did like a promotion, and it like shot up to actually #1 on Amazon in the sci-fi mystery and thriller, and it's kind of under like the heist subgenre. And that was super exciting. I didn't know if that was even going to be possible, and it made it there. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's been just super exciting, and just everyone in the writing community has been very supporting.
That's super cool, man. Congratulations on that #1 in the category. That's awesome. Was that like during like a free promotion, or was that #1 paid?
Yeah, it was a mix.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was it was before the promotion, I got into the top 25. And it was like, okay, because I had like I can't remember what happened, but there was a number of bookstagrammers that picked it up. And so there was like a little bit of a pop from that. So it like went down from it climbed the charts. And then and then I did a free promotion for 3 or 4 days, and it was just for the ebook, and that got it to #1.
Nice, nice,
And
nice.
it was like 12 different countries of people downloading it. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Someone from India downloaded my book.
Isn't that neat? I love the way, yeah, that like happens, and you'll. I've been really surprised sometimes, like people that watch this, and I'm like, wait, you're where, and you want to? Okay, cool, great. Like I'm happy about it. I
Yeah,
was
it's like,
amazed. Yeah,
okay, cool. It's like, and I was like, wow, my book really is truly global right now. And once I saw where it hit,
right, right. That's interesting that you said like some bookstagrammers picked it up. Were you like pushing it on the bookstagrammers, or was that kind of organic?
Uh, it was a little of both.
Uh huh.
I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Noah Brisk Reviews, if you know him.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah, he's
solid,
cool.
solid guy, heart of gold, and I want to say that I could be wrong, but like I want to say he followed me from like maybe he was following Amber Toro or Brian Wilson or something like someone, it was like someone in the SSF community. And then I remember I posted uh, some type of marketing thing on Instagram, and he commented on, he's like, this is on my TBR, I'm hoping to read it in July. And I was like, whoa, that's super cool, because I was watching his reviews and different things like that. So I messaged him. I was like, hey, if you didn't get the book yet, kind of just send it to you. I'd love to send it to you. And I was like, and for what it's worth, I was like, my birthday's in July, so maybe you could like push it up on the list. And he was
Hmm.
actually he told me that he was in a bit of like a sci-fi kick.
Hmm.
So he was just trying to get his hands on as many sci-fi indie books at that time. And so, yeah, he picked it up, and then like all of his friends started grabbing it. And so it just kind of, went through that community and got, probably like, I want to say maybe close to like 10 or 12 Bookstagrammer reviews within a month, which was
Nice.
it was super exciting. It was like a whole nother like
Yeah.
release, if you will.
That's rad. That's rad. That's one thing that I love about books is like the way that they can have sort of this second or third or fourth life, and like I mean, think of a book like Dune. How many sort of times has Dune had a moment,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I was in Barnes and Noble with my family probably about a month ago, and
Hmm.
they just had a table just stacked of Dune. I'm just like, how many copies is this? How many copies of Dune is sold? And especially with this new, like the new first
Yeah.
and second movie again, it's just like, gosh,
Right.
yeah, it's like the waves just keep coming.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool, man. I mean, yeah, you've had like a pretty good launch. That's good. There's been some fun waves to ride. That's really fun. Have you been able to kind of get back into riding, or like is it sort of feeling, because I've talked with some people that are like, oh, I just can't get back to it. Of course, you've also got a 2-year-old, which is not going to make things any easier, and the day job, right? So
Yeah.
how are you doing with it all?
Yeah. So, yeah, in terms of, yeah, I was just trying to
This
collect
is
my thoughts in
this is how
terms
I
of like, okay, where do I
like
want to start with this?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I am 60,000 words into Chloe's Kingdom 2.
Nice.
So we're rocking and rolling. I'll probably end this one around, at least in terms of the first draft, probably around 100,000 words. So I'm getting there, so
Nice.
it's rocking and rolling. And in terms of finding time to write, really for me, if it was up to me, I had the choice, it would always be to write in the morning. It's
Same.
something about, yeah, it's like a blank slate. You don't have work on your mind, you don't have kids on your mind, errands, all that other type of stuff. And yeah, it's hard when your mind's cluttered, at least for me. And
Mhm.
I'm always envious when I see people are like, I was at the DMV and I just cranked out 500 words. And I'm like, all right, what alien planet are you from? Like,
Yeah, right.
you know, uh, so yeah, I mean, but it's a little different for me in terms like, I'll either try to wake up like super early. Sometimes I wake up at like 3:30 or 4 a.m. I'll just kind of hop into my office and just try to get some out before. I usually try to start my day around like 5 in terms of eating breakfast and get ready for work. And then I'll take the daughter for an hour. And But when I'll shift into the mode of editing, I can edit at any time.
Mm.
At any time, anywhere. It's a totally different shift of my mind where I turn off the creativity portion and I'm more into the like metamorphosis of the book. I'm turning into it from a caterpillar to a butterfly because my book is ugly in the first draft, so I got to make it as pretty as possible. And so that's like usually like an editing process of like 500 unique edits. But yes, that's not even a joke. But so yeah, and then that's really what it is. But yeah, it's the main difference because I wrote Chloe's Kingdom. I started it in 2021. It took me 3 months to write it. I did the majority of it during like 2021's NaNoWriMo, if that's what you call it. Yeah, it's like I wrote it like I think I cranked out about 35 or 40,000. I didn't make it to like I think the 50K mark is like the goal. But I was still like, hey, it was like I was striving for it. But before my daughter Lydia came, I would write every single day, usually for a minimum of an hour, but sometimes usually around 2, and on the weekend sometimes I'll do like a 6-hour power stretch and just go nuts. But now sometimes I'll go a week without writing. I just something happens with work and I'm busy, or I'm just I think life happens, and you're managing the family and all that other type of stuff. It's super easy to get off the track, and you got to get back into the motion, and it's kind of like restarting. So yeah, and weekends are like an absolute no-go now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the same for me. Weekends are like family time.
Yeah, it's I'm super grateful that my wife picks up a lot of the parenting during the weekdays, and so she is really full-time mom during the weekdays, and so weekend it's like dad mode time. Let's rock and roll. And so it's like, yeah. And so even if I wanted to write by the end of the day, my brain is a bowl of oatmeal.
Yeah. 2-year-olds will do that to you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mine's like
how old are your kids?
So I have an 11-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. So they keep me on my toes. What's nice, like, I don't know if you're at this stage yet. I feel like when the brand new kids, I joke that it's like you're, as a parent, it's like being in the Secret Service, but you're not saving them from external threats. You're saving them from actually killing themselves because they're constantly just doing stuff to kill themselves, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's always just like, 2 weeks ago, she was fascinated with trying to climb like over the couch, and on the other side of the couch is just hard floor. So it's like, it's not a good situation, but it's like, if you didn't let her go up there was an even bigger problem.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So thankfully my 3.5-year-old is like just starting to like really get to the place where it's like, okay, I feel pretty good about her playing in the backyard without having to like kind of helicopter,
That's nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. There's light at there's, I promise, you're cresting a hill,
Yeah. At this point, like every week's different. There's always just something new, some new development.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's like I could feel myself like not having to be just always just like you said, helicoptering, but I still think we're about a year off where we have like a little extra freedom and her having a little more independence.
Yeah. I got tickets to a band playing not this Sunday but the following Sunday, and now we're like, but wait, we got to find a babysitter. So that's a fun thing. But I want to hear, to take it back a little bit. You talked about when you're editing, you can edit anytime, which I think is cool. What is your editing process like? You mentioned like 500 kind of unique edits. So like, are you the kind of person where you're like tracking all the edits on a spreadsheet, or what is the process here? Because I'm always trying to learn more, especially I feel too like there's so much advice and stuff for drafting, but a lot less so for editing,
Yeah. And so I guess where I'll start first is that I am a pantser.
Okay.
Not a plotter. So I sit down I had a very loose outline for Chloe's Kingdom when I first started. I just kind of mapped out the characters, not all of them, but I fleshed out kind of the core characters, and
Hmm.
didn't really even know like who the bad guy or bad guys were going to be. And I really started with just a vision of really the end scene of the book.
Mm.
That's where I started. I had this, and it wasn't exactly like the end, but it was like within like the last 3 chapters of the story. But I had this image in my head, and kind of a story about how I wanted to end it. And I kind of worked it backwards from there. But in terms of editing, I totally faked it all the way up until my release as becoming a writer. Just the best way I can put it is that I didn't go to school for writing.
Sure.
I went for business management and marketing.
Which
I
has
wasn't a
served you well, I think, right?
Yeah, it suits my day job very well, but I wasn't a stellar student in high school. I was a decent student in college because I got to choose the class I wanted and everything like that. But like, in high school, I was like, yeah, I want to skateboard. Like, screw everything else. And so like that was like my main focus. But yeah, when I first started, I started writing in 2014, and I was always just a huge TV and movie buff, and I was reading a decent amount, but nowhere as much as I've been reading, say like over like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Still, young and everything. So, but I just was like, you know what? I feel like I've just like watched enough TV shows, watched enough movies, and it's time for me to write my own story. Especially after like you see maybe like something that's just horrendous and it's garbage. I'm like something like
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way. Like I'm like you're like maybe you're like just you I don't know, maybe just have a misconception of reality, but you're like, I feel like I can write something better than what I just watched or saw or something like that. But like majority of
Yeah.
the stuff I see, it's actually really good. But so what ended up happening was it was the first story I ever wrote was actually it wasn't Chloe's Kingdom. I wrote it as a movie script.
Mm.
So my mom got me a copy of Final Draft,
Mm.
and what I first did was I picked a few movies that I really enjoyed. I grabbed the movie script for Superbad. I grabbed it for Interstellar,
Ooh,
and
okay.
yeah, I went like totally full house because I wanted to see both sides of it. And
Yeah.
then I believe Inception. And so
Okay.
I read them from beginning to the end, and I was like, okay. So I was like, you don't really need to be a super descriptive writer if you're writing a movie script, because that's where I felt I was going to be the weakest. And so I was just like, and dialogue is where I feel like I shine. Like if I sat down tomorrow, I'm like, I'm gonna just write a story between me and Nicholas having a conversation. I just keep writing all day. But the second you want me to like describe the wall behind me, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be struggling a little bit. And so I wrote a movie script, but then I realized that Hollywood is a disaster and it's going to be impossible to make the movie with no connections. And I wasn't going to move to California or anything like that. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to transfer this and make this into a novel. And so I really just kind of faked it of just being like, okay, so I have the movie script. I'm going to transfer over. I was able to transfer virtually like all the dialogue and very low amount of description. But then I would be like, okay, wait, I need to think about, if I'm like repeating words, am I like, is there like too much repeating words in there? Let me think about like flow. Let me think about grammar. Let me think about all the sorts of things. And so like every time I would do an edit, it was always based on like one specific thing I was trying to solve.
Okay.
And so I was really going in just being like, I want to be thinking about describing like the environment of each chapter. And that's really like my editing process is still where I write fairly light. I've gotten better over the years where I can add more description, but it's still, I would say, only at like 75% at this point. So when I go into an edit, like I'll go into it and just being like, I really want to think about like what people are smelling, what people are hearing, and like what people are seeing. And so it's like it's really honed in on just a very specific point, and I'll go from start to finish just with that. And sometimes like the edits are faster that way, but the issue is that like sometimes I'll be going through it and I'll realize like, oh, I need to be focusing on this. Like, because sometimes I have some beta readers and they're like, they'll be like, maybe you want to focus on this a little bit, like the description or this or that. And I'll just go in, I'm like, all right, I'm doing edit and it's this. I'm solely focused on that point. So that's kind of my editing process is that, and in terms of writing, I taught myself through YouTube videos and mimicking other writers,
Yeah.
of books I enjoyed.
Nice. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about living in this 21st century is we can learn anything from YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like that a lot, and that's kind of similar to my process. But I'm not. That's kind of amazing and kind of wild to me that you take that across the whole book for like, okay, I just want to focus on like smells, you know. I
Yeah.
kind of feel like I would be doing that. I'm not sure, like chapter by chapter, more like kind of act, maybe, you know. But
Okay. Yeah. And it depends. Like sometimes I'll double up on stuff, and there's
yeah,
always like another layer of just, if I'm going through something and I see something that is like, I gotta fix this, or I can see where I can improve or add upon the story, or maybe I'm like, I'm gonna fit a chapter in between these two. And I'll do stuff
hmm
like that, but usually I like to go in with like a very specific goal to keep me on task. And after I finish that, I feel good. I'm like, okay, I know that in each chapter I'm not missing this core sense or this core aspect of the story. So that
yeah,
like you are just like, they kind of, so they don't get lost in the words.
yeah. I'm making notes while we're talking, actually.
Be careful. It's I'm not saying that's the
Hmm. But I like that. I like, going through and doing like a pass on like sensory details, that sort of thing. I think is really good because I'm really similar too in like my writing. Like my first drafts are so dialogue heavy, and sometimes when there's action, I feel pretty good and comfortable or like writing the action. But yeah, my sensory details are not great, so that's something that I need to focus on in a full editing pass. Is like, okay, I need to go add like sensory details. I need to. The other thing too is like, and I think it's sort of a danger of like using too much TV and movie as a model, is that they don't have the interiority that books have, and the interiority is one of the things that is really unique and wonderful about books. So we got to think about, okay, what is this person thinking? The fact that we can be in the character's head is
Mhm.
unique in books.
Yes, yeah, and that's probably the other thing I struggle with a lot too, is that especially when you get into like deep description or just inside someone's head for a really long time, it's just something that doesn't come naturally to me. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I really need to think about like, okay, I'm going to be focusing on narration or inner dialogue, because regular dialogue is just, again, that's just so easy to become so naturally. A lot of the other aspects that I really got to like turn up the volume on the brain power to make it work.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. So what was some of your favorite like go-to resources on YouTube? And did you listen to like podcasts too, like writing excuses, or pretty much exclusively
Um,
like YouTube videos?
so it was a bit of a combination where, it's Reedsy.
Hmm.
Reezy, and it's like Shaylin Wrights. Do you know her? She's like she does like a lot of their short clip videos.
I might have heard that one. I think I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how I just remembered her name, but I haven't watched any videos in a while, but like she was really good at just like, hey, like if you're focusing on like character arc, if you're focusing on plot, if you're like whatever, like she has dozens of videos out there. They're all under like 5 to 10 minutes, but whatever you're trying to improve upon in your story, if you watch that and take notes, you can immediately incorporate it into your writing. And
Hmm.
so, Reezy was a really big thing. I just watched a lot of videos on, some other authors talking about their process
Hmm.
and like some other things to think about. I read like Stephen King's On Writing book. just great book, and just picked out some like good nuggets from it, and just other like random videos. Just sometimes I would just put in there just like character arc or things like that, and just
Nice.
watch an hour of videos.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Did you check out the Brandon Sanderson lecture series?
I did not. No.
Oh, you
So
gotta go
keeper, I
check
should
those
go
out.
and check it out.
Yeah, I think they're worthwhile. And they're not like long. It's not like Writing Excuses is a podcast, and Brandon Sanderson was a host for a while, and it's fantastic, but there's like 20 seasons. So like that's hard to consume all of it. But like the Brandon Sanderson lecture series, there's like 7 or something videos. It's not a an insurmountable, Sisyphean task there.
Yeah, it's a little hard for me too. Like there's a lot of some of the famous writers out there, they're more on the plotter side of things.
Fair.
And so, I love J.K. Rowling. I love the Harry Potter series, just absolutely incredible. Can't wait to read it to my daughter. We already got like the illustrated first book, and we're like, oh, it's gonna be so fun. But when I watched a couple of videos of her, and she's like, let me bring you downstairs into like my study, and then she's just like, look at all these file cabinets of like plotting, and you're just like, I'm like, that is so irrelevant to my style that it's very fascinating to watch, and just seeing like all the little
Yeah.
notes and everything she wrote about. But it's like, it's just not my style. It's like I just write down, I sit down, and I'm just like, whatever just pops into my head, I just start rolling with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally fair. I hear what you're saying. I feel like Sanderson did a decent job of like talking kind of to both processes. Like one of the things he talked about is promises, progress, and payoff. The way you need to make promises, like tell the reader what what to expect, what kind of story this is, and what the goals are. Right? You can just show the characters like making progress towards these goals and that sort of thing, and then you need to have a payoff of like when they're actually getting there. It needs to be exciting and interesting and whatnot. And that's like, I mean, that was sort of a simple point, but it's like that one stuck with me, and that definitely applies whether you're pantsing or plotting.
Yeah, I
Just
think the biggest thing that was in my last edit of Chloe's Kingdom was I was really just focused on like, does every chapter have some form of conflict? And then like,
nice.
and sometimes you go through them, and like sometimes it was just like a hair of conflict, but like every once in a while I would find a chapter where it was like, oh wait, like there's not really like anything strong here hooking this one. And it was either like, we're either gonna lose this one or we gotta change it. Because if it didn't have just some form of conflict outside of it or inside the character, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
they're facing, you could just totally tell that when I was reading through it, like the words slowed down, the pace slowed down, and it lost its flavor of like what you're driving towards. So yeah, I mean, there's so many little like nuggets out there of what you need in each story and stuff like that to make it make sense.
That's good. Yeah. I like that. All right, Gregory, let's do a little bit of a transition here. We've been talking about the books, we've been talking about writing, talking about that sort of thing. Let's talk about you, my friend. Let's talk about you. So I want to spend a little moment talking about cybersecurity, because I guess that's your day job, huh? Have you?
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
Tell me, like, go ahead and talk, and then I have a thought on cybersecurity. Like, what is the day-to-day like? I mean, are you I don't know, hunting down hackers? Like,
I'm empowering companies to get the tools to help them hunt down the hackers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to classify myself as like a cybersecurity advisor. I'm
Okay.
certainly on like the pre-sales side of things in terms of helping, like guiding companies if they have an initiative or something they're trying to solve on the cybersecurity front. But yeah, I've been in cybersecurity since 2014, or maybe 2013, so a little over 10 years. And yeah, it's been just an ultra rewarding career for me. It's just, I mean, like you can't go a week without something being newsworthy for a breach. And technology is only like exponentially growing, which is just continuing to expand the threat landscape. Everything is on the internet, everything is
Yeah.
digital, everyone's assets are digital, especially with COVID. Like everyone needed to be like, not just us, but like companies needed to be serving their customers 100% digitally as well. And so it really just escalated everything exponentially from where it was in 2019 to now. And so there's no shortage of, projects. There's no everything is just very busy, and it's very exciting, and you really feel like you're doing good because you're protecting in the specific cybersecurity I'm in right now. It's identity and access management. The best way to describe that is like if like you bank with Chase or Wells Fargo, whoever, like when you sign in, you have like you might get an MFA, like a multi-factor authentication, and it sends you a code. And so like someone can't just steal your password and just get in, and maybe it like recognizes your computer. And so it's kind of trying to recognize your specific identity so that you're proving who you are to get to access to what is yours. And so but yeah, and so that's really what I've been focusing in on, and it's an exciting ride.
I have a specific question, but first I want to ask, Bo is a IT professional. So Gregory, do you work for a specific vendor?
I do, yeah. I work for Ping Identity.
Okay. Wonder if Bo has experience with them. Did you hear, Gregory? I saw this on Reddit, but then it actually is legit. There was one dude, he's like an ethical hacker, and he's done some other work, but this one dude shut down like the entirety of the internet in North Korea.
Yeah, I mean, I did hear something about that,
Uh-huh.
and the sad reality when it comes to cybersecurity is that in most cases, outside of like the really big banks, the really big healthcare organizations, some really big retailers,
Mm-hmm.
you could take down a lot of companies with like a Hacking for Dummies book.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the reality is that like it's really hard for companies to manage cybersecurity effectively, and
Yeah.
it's even harder to have a really good identity and access management program.
Mm-hmm.
On top of a number of other things, there's so many ways for people to get in, and it's really and I think companies as a culture are still trying to catch up that cybersecurity is ultra important until they get burned.
Right.
So they're just like, we haven't been hacked yet. Like, why are we investing in this? And it's like, well, like, because something might happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like,
Then they get a ransomware attack, and then they're screwed. Yeah.
totally. And so, like, we've seen it with all the, that happened in the casinos last year where, no one can get access to their room at MGM and all the number of stuff. And like, but there's always like these huge newsworthy ones that come out every week or every month now. And yeah, they affect a lot of people. They affect the companies, even down to like, sometimes hospitals, like doctors can't sign in, they can't do, their rounds, they can't do sometimes even surgeries, or they have to like do things where, it's really important stuff. And if people
Yeah.
like we look at even just like the CrowdStrike thing not too long ago, where all
Mm-hmm.
the, no one's window
Oh
device
yeah.
that CrowdStrike on it wasn't working. I think I saw a post from Bo on that. He didn't seem too happy about it, like most IT people or tech people. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I mean, like no planes were flying, banks weren't transacting. It's like, what's going on here? Like there's so many things that can happen these days where it's like life kind of shuts down. It's like, so yeah, it's wild.
Interesting. So that I would apparently that like attack in North Korea was able to do like a hacking for dummies because they're like because they want to control the internet that's in North Korea. I mean, obviously it's a very limited internet. There's not that many people that are on the internet in North Korea, but like
Yeah.
they want to control what's available and whatnot. So they run it all through like one switch or whatever. And the guy was able to bring down that one switch, and it was a disaster. But good times. Bo says, fun fact, the only OS to date that hasn't been impacted by ransomware is Chrome OS, which is interesting and surprising. And he says he's done derailing. Mike Porter asks, is the use of blockchain technology the future of cybersecurity?
Uh, you know, a lot of the stuff with blockchain and that sort of technology on the crypto side of the house, it's slowed down a fair bit. Just crypto in general, NFTs, like who's talking about NFTs anymore, stuff like that. But like, I definitely think there will be a time and place for it. Where I would say cybersecurity is more going right now is towards AI. AI is certainly, it definitely, it doesn't necessarily need to be generative AI at this point, but it's just decision making, which makes your cybersecurity program more adaptive. So it's making
Oh, okay.
real time decisions.
Sure,
Um,
sure. And
as it
like, maybe identifying like phishing scams that are attacking your corporation or something like that, or
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just it can make logical decision based on policies and rules and maybe different type of risk signals and fraud alerts, stuff like that. But then where we'll go from there is I eventually will go into generative AI because people are going to be using AI to create cyber attacks, and so you're going to have to combat it with AI
Holy shit.
at the speed of it all. Yeah. So we're just going to have robots fighting against robots. What can go wrong?
Uh,
I feel like I just saw like a Terminator movie flash in your eyes for like half a
right.
second. I saw it there. I saw it
Right.
for just like a split second. You were like Sarah Connor or something.
Like just the idea of like, yeah, being using generative AI for attacks is gross, but you're absolutely right.
It's
Like,
going to
I'm
be on both
sure.
sides. Yeah, it's going to have to be. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing in like human history of like the weapons versus armor development is it's constantly a a one-upsmanship of the two. Even
mhm.
like, and it doesn't matter what scale you're talking about. You can have like ballistic missiles and Iron Dome. Oh, you can have bulletproof vests and armor penetrating bullets. Like all of them do that constant thing. So I'm
There's
sure that
always a
yeah,
next level up. Yeah,
yeah.
there's always the next level up, and what's going to be the kind of the king of the hill at that point. But yeah, it seems like I think it's going to be the first company or country so that lets AI go wild is where everything changes.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely everything about what we understand in our world, it will just it's the first person that lets it loose and just says like, go do your thing, AI. Like, and then it'll be like Skynet and me and you will somehow meet up in the middle of America fighting in a resistance or something.
Let's hope we make it that far. Even like
Oh, I'm gonna.
yeah, you're all prepped. Yeah, right. Good, good, good. Um, yeah, and Bo says AI like ChatGPT made script kiddies even more powerful than before. That makes sense because yeah, you
100%.
can.
Yeah, I totally agree, Bo. It's you can pump a lot into ChatGPT and have it send out very interesting things to you.
So let's just take this to the next like logical extreme. How would you protect Gregory not from the Terminator, but from Stuxnet?
From what? Sorry.
Stuxnet, I believe I have the name right. Let me make
What
sure.
is that? I'm not familiar with that.
Stuxnet is a computer worm that was originally aimed at Iran's nuclear facilities and has since mutated and spread to other industrial and energy producing facilities. Whoops. But yeah, so Stuxnet was a malicious computer worm first uncovered in 2010 and thought to have been in development since at least 2005. And it was likely.
I mean,
mm,
anything that is like anything that can be seen as like a point of attack for that would be classified something on like the terrorist level. So like in
well,
Arizona,
but that one was likely created by us
yeah,
with
yeah, 2010.
like yeah,
but
NSA and CIA, and they inserted it into the Iranian nuclear centrifuges. And the way it worked is it spanned the centrifuges until they broke.
oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, anything that is mission critical in terms of like infrastructure for cities, states, etc., uh, countries. Like my thought about it is like in Arizona. we have two large energy and utility companies, and
Mhm.
if the electricity goes down in
Big
the
problem.
summer, people are going to
Yeah.
die. Like it's
Yeah.
115 degrees out and no AC, your house turns to 95 degrees in an hour. So it's like in those situations, you need to black box it. No internet
Hmm.
in, no internet out.
Hmm.
That's the way you protect it against cyber attacks. No internet, no internet, and on top of that, um, usually the protocol in most situations in at least America is that any of those type of facilities that are mission critical and are more likely to be subject to a type of terrorist attack that can affect people is also guarded by people. They
Hmm.
have weapons, and it's not just
Hmm.
like, oh, we just lock it, slide the lock or something like that. It's a whole kind of situation. It's a whole operation, if you will.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I guess the prevailing wisdom is that it was inserted via USB drive.
Yeah,
So, like, yeah, Bo is saying, well, you'd have to shut down the USB drive, which is kind of crazy. Like, I mean, it's hard
you can do
to,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
you can buy, yeah, endpoint protection solutions can turn off the USB drives in computers. I worked for a company where the USB drives in my Windows computer did not work.
all right. Now you're getting to where I don't quite know it. The attack was actually air gapped. Oh, I see, I see, I see. So it
Oh,
was like
sorry.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah. The other term. Yeah, yeah.
off the internet, but
So they actually, I guess, like got into it as
yeah.
like they did social engineering. So they actually, as a human, got into there through whatever means. And
Hmm.
sometimes you can do it by brute force, or sometimes you can just be kind of like slick and be like, "Hey, I do work here," and
Right.
just like walk into a company or an organization or have you.
Yeah, I don't know if Bo knows. So, my impression was that it was more they got slick than brute force on that one. But yep, yeah, no internet and the machine there. But yeah, interesting, interesting. I mean, that feels like that one could be like a Tom Clancy book.
That's
Like
total. Yeah, I mean, that's especially if you're getting to like a nuclear facility or something of the like. Like, yeah, you're not just. Yeah, you're bordering Tom Clancy,
right,
James Bond sort of
right, right,
scenarios.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe a
yeah.
disguise.
Oh, look up OMG cable. All right, I
Oh,
guess I'll have to
I
do
think
that
I
later.
saw something on that not too long ago. Is that like
Really?
the I think that is that the thing where it can like plug into any like phone or something like that, and then it like you can gain access to it basically on every level, but it's like it goes through the charging port.
What? A USB cable with an advanced implant hidden inside?
Yeah. I just saw like a 60-second clip on YouTube about it not too long ago where some famous hacker was like, "Hey, like you see this?" And he's like, "This looks like a iPhone charging cable." And he's like, "Is it?" And then he demoed it and it was like, "Whoa." I was like, "That's never yeah, don't use public Wi-Fi if you don't have to. Don't do a
Wow.
number of things."
Wow. Wow. All right, I might not want to know the answer. All right, just lie to me, Gregory. How like vulnerable is my like if I'm using my phone for a Wi-Fi hotspot and I'm tying into my Wi-Fi hotspot, but it's like just me, am I screwed?
No, you're good.
All right.
The
Woo!
other thing about it too is like when people are thinking about doing like attacks, like especially
Yeah.
the hackers and stuff like that, they're going
Yeah.
after like large companies, and they
Right. Right.
need
Right.
yeah, going after like very specific individuals. You usually need to be like a celebrity, or they have like something massive to gain off of their devices. Maybe they want pictures, or maybe it's
Yeah.
like a politician, you name it. So,
Poor
but
Jennifer Lawrence.
yeah, yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that it's yeah. Usually, as on the individual side, really the biggest threat you have is just someone stealing your actual identity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always
Okay.
sign up for MFA. Always like choose like the hardest options. Don't just do like the
Right.
email and the SMS like text. Always try
Yeah.
to do something that's like a biometric where it like scans your face or does like a thumbprint scan if your phone has that or if your computer has that. Always
Yep.
choose the most difficult thing because it's worth it. It's very easy to spoof emails and texts.
Yep. All right, let's get on a different topic again.
Now that we
You
scared everyone.
Now that we scared everyone, let's try to make them laugh a little. You were are or were head writer of a comedy
More
sketch show.
were, this was something that was a few years ago where we were doing shows, like comedy sketch shows,
That is super
and
cool,
like
by the way. Just like, I mean, yeah, that's fun.
yeah, it was when I was writing my. I think I was still working on my first novel at the time. I haven't published my first novel that I've written. That's going to be after the Chloe's Kingdoms series. But yeah, it was. I worked in I worked in an office at the time, and one of the guys there was like he was really into writing as well. Not really on the book side, but more for like movies, skits, TV shows, and he really had that dream to go to Hollywood and be a producer and different things like that. He's actually done that. Andrew St. Just shout out, but uh, but yeah,
Mhm.
he knew that I was a writer, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to, you know, write in this sketch show and like some of the stuff I want to put together?" And I was like, "I've never really written like full blown comedy, but." Like let's YouTube this, let's do it. Let's YouTube my ways of victory on this one. So like I kind of figured out like what was like the way, like what was the flow, like studied a lot of SNL and
Mm.
and then for like a month, like all I would do is anytime I thought of something funny, I would immediately go to my phone and like put in the notes as fast as possible. And then later go to my computer and be like, all right, let's write out the skit and it would only be like 5 pages, but yeah, and I never acted, but I wrote a lot, and so but yeah, I ended up being the head writer for it and had a lot of my skits produced for the live shows.
That's rad. Where did these like was it like stage performance or
It was, yeah, and it was in Phoenix, Arizona, and yeah,
nice?
it was just promoted. Like we had a number of uh, actors or just people who enjoyed that type of, uh, you know, kind of like theater nerds, if you will.
Yeah, yeah,
They're from
yeah.
like high school and like college, and they just love doing this type of stuff. And so some of them were writers, some of them were just purely like, just give me stuff you want me to say, and I'll go up there, and if I like it, and then it was just really just like word of mouth and through social media we would promote it, but we'd fill up the room with a couple hundred people. It was fun.
That's cool. That's cool. Is that still like kind of a community that you engage with or not so much anymore?
So it's super funny. Well, not super funny, but super interesting. And ultimately, I was like, it was one of the most grateful experiences I had because I found almost like a writing partner who helps me on the. He's my friend Austin. He's been my go-to beta reader. So he's the
Nice.
first person that reads my stuff. He read my first book. He read Chloe's Kingdom. He was the first one. He's like the first person I say thank you to in the ending credits, or like the acknowledgments rather. But yeah, he he's super funny. He's a really great actor. But
Mhm.
he's also a very good writer too. And so I just kind of was said like, hey, I was just curious if maybe you can read some of my stuff. And the good part is that like I can give him really raw writing,
Mm.
and like he'll still read it and like come back to me with really good feedback and a smile on his face, not being like, "What is this crap you gave me?" It's like
Mm.
he actually it's just a really he's super great about it, and
Yeah,
it's all good stuff because he understands the writing process too. So he can
that's
tell me
nice.
like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm not really believing that this character is like super smart, or I'm not really believing that this character is actually evil. Like, like really think about that more." And helps me sometimes like see points I'm missing.
He's the Miyagi to your dad. Wax on. Wax off.
Totally,
Wax
100%. Yeah.
yeah. I like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's nice too. That I think that's rare to have the feedback when it's raw and have that be valuable because it's easy, I think, easier anyway to get like line edit type feedback, but like yeah, that feedback when it's raw and be like, oh, like I see what you're trying to do and it's not quite landing is
Yeah.
that's really valuable.
100%. Yeah. And it's like, I usually won't make him suffer through the first draft, but I'll go through it just once more where I'll just clean it up so that there's not just, because like I know you write and everything, and it's like sometimes we'll go back into and you're like, what the, like I just like stopped the sentence and didn't even finish it. Like, what am I, like, what was I doing here? And like you're like, how'd that happen? Or like you just can tell like you messed up a paragraph completely, or
sometimes that rough draft is extra rough. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so like I'll go through it just once and like give it like a little bit of a spot check and just kind of run through it really fast. And then I just like then hand it to him and just like, and then he'll come back to me with, usually we try to do it like in 5 to like 10 chapter clips, where my chapter's a lot smaller than like the average writer. And so like but like, yeah, we'll just go through that and he'll just say like, here's what I liked, here's what I disliked, here's what you need to work on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just take down the notes as I just crank on the keyboard as he's telling me everything.
Nice. Sick. All right. And a different personal story. Stung by over 100 bees. What is going on? What is? Did you do you have like a
skits?
Wait. What?
Wait, do you want to hear about some of the skits?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just going to describe a few because it's like I can't really act them out because some of them are like multi-people and all type of stuff. But one I particularly liked, a little bit of like a sci-fi feel to it, like a little bit scientisty. But like imagine, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and like Danny DeVito, and they're both scientists.
Okay.
And they're in they're in their lab or what have you, and like Arnold Schwarzenegger walks in and he's like insanely buff and looks like he's gonna pick Danny DeVito over his head and like toss him or something like that. And he's like, you know what? I think Pluto's not a planet anymore. And like Danny DeVito's like, well, like just because it's small doesn't mean it's like it's not like it's still a planet. It's just not as big as say like Jupiter or Saturn, And he's like, no. We want our planets to be strong and big. He's like, that one's just going to be like a dwarf. And like, they're going like an argument back and forth about it. So that was like one of them. And that was I like it. I kind of just like thought up randomly. Cause I think we all remember where Pluto was a planet.
Pluto. Yeah.
And then the next day it wasn't. And everyone's like, whoa, what happened here? And they're like, oh no, it's a dwarf planet, or maybe it's like a moon. Like, we're not really sure anymore. And you're like, okay. Like, who made this decision? And like, where's this coming down from?
Right?
Yeah, like no, I'm OG Pluto. Like they're a planet. Okay? I'm sorry. Like I'm not buying into this like muscular dude that said it's not anymore. That's how it's going on in my mind. And
I like it.
So yeah, there was that one. Not to get like too political, I wrote one where it was like called like Trump Time Machine. And like this specific one is, I think we all like hey, like we all get wrapped up in politics and all that type of stuff, but this one is kind of like the idea of like almost like a Rick and Morty or like a Back to the Future, where there's like the grandpa, and then there's like the younger daughter or son or grandchild, and they and he's like, I made a time machine, and you can either go forward or go backward, but you can only do one trip. And then of course, like the granddaughter's like, I know what I'm going to do. And he's like, perfect. What is it? Like, are you going to go like to the future to find the cure for cancer? Or are you going to like go back and like stop Hitler? And she's like, I'm going to go back to 2016 and stop Trump from being president. He's like, well, like, I feel like we have bigger fish to fry on this one opportunity. She's like, and they're just going back and forth until like, eventually she's like, okay, fine. Like, I won't. And then like, she comes back, and then like he looks at the newspaper and it's like President like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie or something like that. It's like, what? And he's like, oh my God. Like,
President Brangelina.
Like, yeah. So it was like that. And then the other one I really had fun writing, and it was really funny to watch people act it out was, like we have like apps for everything these days. So like, like we all have communities, and like on Twitter we can get into the writing community, but like, if you're like, hey, I'm into like underwater basket weaving, like there's an app for that probably, and you can go meet with people and all that type of stuff. And so the idea was that it was like like 3 skateboarders that are kind of like that classic skateboarder, like kind of like a little dumb, a little goofy, like maybe, under the influence of something. And they're like, whoa, bro, like we need to meet more skateboarders. Like we need to like meet more people. But they're like, but how are we going to do it? And they're like, well, there's got to be an app for it. And sort of like, well, like, let me try to figure this out. Is there like Kickflip? Is that like an app name? Or is there like 360? And they're like, oh, I found one. It's Grinder. And, and they're like grinding on a rail. They're like, oh, perfect. And so, and so then they're like, let's make our profile. And so then they're making their profile, and they're like, all right, so like let's start off, like we're looking for like other buff dudes that like are looking to go hard all day. So like write that, and like they're not afraid to like stick up their knees and all that stuff. So it's like so you could see where it was all going. But oh, did you fall out of your chair?
I leaned back like laughing and like buff dudes going hard all day, and I unplugged my headset.
Yeah, so but yeah, it was just like they're looking for an app, and then they find the wrong thing.
yeah, and it keeps getting worse with the
it just keeps rolling, and yeah, so that was another really fun one. And then one that Austin wrote, I'll just give him a little plug. He wrote one where it was almost like a spinoff of like Wilfred. Did you watch that show or remember that with where it's like this guy, he can see, it's like Elijah Wood, but he wakes up one day and like his dog's talking to him, and it's like a dude in a dog suit. And like he just randomly like go smoke cigarettes and stuff like that. And he did like a skit basic kind of almost like in the vein of the show Wilfred, but it was like super funny because like this girl comes home with her date, and then like he's just like sitting on the couch like, what's up? She's like, here's my dog. And he's like, like, I don't think that's a dog. And she's like, what do you mean? And so it was like, yeah, that was a super funny one. Got a lot of people laughing in it. That's
pretty good. I like it.
Sorry, what was the next topic we were going to? I just want to talk about those.
Yeah, I like it. I am just incredibly curious by this thing you dropped in my little questionnaire about being stung by over 100 bees.
Yeah, because you were like, I think in the questionnaire you were like, say something interesting about yourself, and I was like, oh boy, like this is a toughie. I don't think anyone wants to talk about the interesting things, or they have something interesting about them. But so there's 2 things. So I feel like I'm kind of like a man versus wild in some ways. I'm not allergic to poison ivy. Found that out at a really young age, and actually found out that my grandpa was not allergic to poison ivy. So it's like I somehow got that superpower from him. My sister, on the other hand,
Grandpa.
not so lucky. It's bad. And then I grew up in upstate New York. So there's like woods and like marshes and swamps and all that type of stuff. And I was just playing with a bunch of friends when I was probably like 10 or 11, maybe 12 years old. And one of my friends, like they stepped on a beehive on the ground.
Oh boy.
And cracked it open.
Oh no.
Thousands of bees came out, and I got stung well over 100 times, like all at once. And all of us pretty much just had to run through like a bunch of yards so we can get back to my house, and we like hopped the fence and jumped into my pool. And then for like next week, we all looked like we had chicken pox. It was really bad. But the crazy part was like actually my mom was like extremely allergic.
Oh really?
To bees. Like if she got like one bee sting, she would swell up, and like it was all crazy. So it's like if I somehow inherited that from her, like we wouldn't be probably talking
big trouble. Yeah.
So it's like it was crazy, and it was very painful.
Got them good family genes. Got the didn't get the what would have been the kiss of death from your mom, but did get the superpower from grandpa. So yeah. Dang! Wow, that is that. I've been stung by a bee once. I was riding a motorcycle, and I had like a neck gaiter thing on, and the stupid thing like came in and like it got me on the back of the neck, but like How does it get in the neck gator and then sting me back there, little dickhead? And I'm like at a stoplight going, what the fuck? I was sure I looked like an idiot to everyone around me. Like, what is this idiot on the motorcycle doing? I'm like, I got stung. But
Yeah,
took
it's
the
really.
stinger out because I was
Oh,
on my way to a class, and then took the stinger out when I was in class. And I was like, that was definitely a bee, you know?
yeah, I've been actually stung by a lot of bees. I haven't been stung in a long time, but when I was younger, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of times it was like when I was in a pool, because sometimes they get into the water and they're
Mm.
just kind of like floating along on top, and then like once they get to you, they're like, "Ah, salvation! Now I
yeah,
gotta kill you.
yeah,
Like, you saved me, and here's like my thank you." And so
yeah.
it's like, dude, like what's going on here? So,
Right.
uh, but yeah, it's never a pleasant feeling.
No, no, no. Well, Gregory, we've been talking for about an hour. I think this is about a good time to wrap it up, but it's
All
been
right.
lovely. What is there kind of a release date in mind for next book or anything, or isn't it too early to say for that?
No, I mean like so for Chloe's Kingdom 2, I'm aiming for mid 2025.
Okay.
I would really love to actually have it be the same month as this year, April, as my first
Nice.
release, just so it
Yeah.
comes exactly a year later. But I also like we said, it's hey, like I have a daughter, I have a
Yep. That's
family,
got to come first.
yeah, I
Yep.
have a career and all that type of stuff. And so it's like just life gets in the way sometimes. So it's like it's my goal.
Yeah.
But if I could just get into the editing phase sooner rather
Hmm.
than later, I think it would be possible.
Yeah.
If I don't get into the editing phase until like 2025, we might be pushing to like, later into the year, into the summertime.
Word. Fair. Well, I hope it happens. Yeah. Been a delight talking with you, sir. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate it.
Nicholas,
Right.
I really appreciate it too. This was super fun. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, let's do it again sometime, maybe when the next book comes out.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And of course, always good to talk online. But yeah, for those of you watching, Bo, and anyone else out there, if no one's told you yet today, you're an absolute legend. Thanks.
Keep the world safe, Bo.
And oh, wait, hang on.
Oh, all right, we're still here. Let's keep it rolling.
And this is what I want.